My friends, hello, welcome back for some more pointless challenges. We are back after stabilizing our food situation just a little bit after we had some reasonable confidence that we could stabilize with the resources that we had left and while getting our new sources back up. Not everything is up the way I would like it to be yet, and we are still skirting the line a little bit with running out of resources, so let's jump into it and talk about what has changed. We'll just do some playing. So, obviously the food is the biggest deal. People are scalding, not a big deal. Food's the biggest deal. I have a lot of reserves right now, but I did run really low when I was trying to transition, so I'm being a little bit less, I guess a little bit more careful about making sure that I have plenty before I start digging it up, but this is a lot, so I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable. Our numbers for when we're actually going to run out, dirt is down to 35 tons. Which will keep this up for at least a little while. And this should be all I need for the rest of the time. I will go back and regrow it because, as we remember, I must grow every food type by the end of the run. And speaking of manual power, I will need to increase that, but we'll get to that in just a bit. So the rest of the food that's going on right now is still the same as the mushrooms that were here before. So we still got them all planted in the same spots. There's a couple getting a little bit choked up by this natural gas, but we're okay. But yeah, we're getting more meat into the system now, and that is because I have started to finally get this system up and running. I do have a decent amount of critters here. I have some automation to control the number of eggs and the number of critters that are in here. It's not very elegant. The biggest thing that's annoying with this is that this arm will pick up several of them at a time before it loads it, which I guess is a fine, optimization, but I had to put up some, kind of ghetto rigging here to get it to not load every single egg down to the killing chamber all at once. So I have it trying to stay between 25 and 30 right now. So I will ship it out if we are at a total of 30 or more. And then as it passes by this shutoff, if I am less than 25 because it shipped too many out, I will return it back to the room. It's pretty bad in terms of efficiency, but I guess it gets the job done. And if it wasn't for the behavior on these arms of picking up every single egg it can see within a radius, and then trying to ship them all at once, that wouldn't be nearly as much of a problem. But yeah, it definitely is a problem. So I do have that stabilized. I could probably be a little bit more precise about this now because I also had to put this on a timer sensor to kind of stagger how often it ships it out so they don't try to ship them all out at once. And then the spot in which I evaluate to see if I should send it back in is just a few tiles away. So hopefully this will handle it a little bit better. But I am at least getting some meat coming through here because you can see there's a pile of shove-vole eggs here. It's not a lot, only about 6. But once these things hatch and die, they will die immediately, and if I have this all surrounded by metal tiles, they can't go anywhere. So they will die pretty much immediately, they'll get shipped out, and right back into the place that they're supposed to. So it'll get shipped down here, it'll get cooked, and then it'll get circulated amongst the colony. So the food setup is getting there. The biggest thing that I am now very much aware of while I'm on this low power type of setup is that in a very roundabout way, the amount of regolith that I get is directly determining how much meat I can get, because these guys will start to starve if we don't stay on top of their food. So I am still going to be digging this out manually, and I'm doing that right now, as you can see, and I will still be moving it manually, only because I just don't think that I have the power and the cooling and all that stuff to be able to handle this automatically. So I'm going to do it manually, which means that we do need duplicants to live out here, so their chamber's getting close. By the next video, I think for sure we will have duplicants living out here and doing the job of taking care of these critters, effectively producing food for the whole rest of the colony. But they will be isolated, so they will not be able to leave this door once I set this all up. So they will be out in space permanently. Their beds will be here. Anything that they need to do for recreation or bathrooms or whatever, those will all be out here. So everything will be here, and they will just be living here permanently. And this will be the third kind of islanded place that I have, or prison place, or whatever you want to call it. And you might be thinking, third? I thought there was only one. But yeah, we have another one. So I have imprisoned my cooks. And they are located inside this cell block right here, basically in the center of the base. They don't look very imprisoned, but they cannot leave these doors. And these bathrooms are exclusively reserved for them, and all they have here are their bedrooms, a place to eat, and a place to work. And obviously the bathrooms, which I mentioned before. And that's it. So if there's nothing to cook, you can see them all kind of standing around. This will also give me a good idea of how many is needed for all barbecue, which is what we'll be on eventually. But also, I will need them to make every food type, since that's one of the requirements. So I've trapped 5 in here for right now. I could release a couple, because I don't necessarily need all these all the time, but the food that comes in from the mushrooms really comes in big waves, since they were all planted next to each other in terms of timing. So, yeah, I don't know. It's probably overkill. Well, yeah, we have a new section of the colony that is entirely isolated from the rest. The other duplicants can still walk in here to grab the food that they need, so it all at least is still relatively convenient for everybody else. So, yeah, there's our other prison that we've got there. But yeah, once we get this space set up, that will make 4 distinctly separate populations. The main population still being able to go basically wherever they want, but the other 3 being restricted to a small area. And I will have a space colony out here by the next video, I think, so that'll be exciting. And we will have people that live out here and can be dedicated and specialized in the digging or hauling or ranching jobs that are needed for out here. I don't know what kind of population I need. I started with 7. I may increase that up to 9, but I'm not sure yet, so we'll see. We also have still yet to run the test to make sure that this is airtight with these doors being open and everything else being closed off. I think it will be, and if not, then we're just going to not really have room bonuses, I suppose. I'm just going to have to put all these guys down to very basic skills and just kind of run with the best dupes that I have to live out here, so hopefully that doesn't come to that. Another thing that I realized is that a lot of times when building out the space biome for normal setups, you build a line pretty much all the way across with these steel doors. But this is probably all I'm going to build, because the only other area I really need to reserve space for is my rockets. And I usually only make 1 silo anyway. So I'm going to build that, and then I'll have a little bit of extra space here just in case I actually need to make a second room for shovels or need any supporting structures right here. I will eventually need to also reserve space for making liquid fuel, which I think is just going to happen right here. But yeah, that'll be pretty much it. The rest of this, I can still harvest regolith from the outskirts right here. I don't need to cover this up with steel or anything like that, so I'm going to be trying to get the full volume of regolith that can come down from these meteor showers and make sure it can actually sustain my colony. So yeah, interestingly enough, in a very roundabout way, this regolith is sustaining my entire colony right now, so yeah. Or at least it will be shortly. Here's one of these guys drowning, by the way, and you can see how much meat gets produced when they die. Should be going down here any minute. I actually feel a little bit bad. Yeah, oh, that made me feel kind of bad. I usually watch these and I'm like, huh, that's funny, because that's food, but I don't know, that one made me feel bad. Alright, 10 kilograms of meat's being shipped. This is substantially more than a lot of the other critters. I think it's about 4 times as much. I had the exact numbers earlier, and hopefully we'll be able to see how much this is when it drops out, but yeah, it's a lot. These guys are chunky, but they also take a lot of regolith. If you take a look at their diets, they can eat up to 4,800 kilograms a day, which is insane. So I need to make sure that I'm either spreading this out so these guys live for a maximum amount of time to drop as many eggs as possible, because the eggs are basically how much food they produce, and make sure that I know what else I might need to support this with if this is not enough. Because if this is not enough to sustain based upon how much regolith can possibly fall, which is not something I can change, I'm going to need to find other food sources to supplement, which may involve water or may involve other stuff like growing lettuce, for example, because that's something I can get for free out of a geyser. Just doing some weird stuff potentially to try to make up for the fact that this is about all I can get, is about how much regolith will fall. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that goes. Let's take a look at a couple of other things. One thing that was surprisingly alarming, I didn't realize I was getting this low, is my water is getting very low, especially for the sources that are on the other side of the map. So like the sources that are over here are using one water source, or sorry, the users of the water are on one side of the map, and they're all hooked up to like half of this network. The other half is hooked up to the rest, like all the stuff that's over here, all this oxygen production, this pool, anything else that happens over here is hooked up there, but I'm really running low on water, so I think I got on top of that at just the right time. And there are little bits of water trickling in here, but the important thing is that I have a more realistic and like sustainable amount of water being pumped out right now. So there's some coming out from this cool steam vent, which I finally got hooked up. There's some coming out from this water geyser, which is unfortunately dormant right now, but it will be up here pretty soon. There's another cool steam vent up at the top right here, that I now have pumping out as soon as it is active. This one's dormant right now as well. And then I'm finally got my polluted water, cool slush geyser, sorry, I got those vents finally hooked back up. So I have some water flow here, but we're really skirting the edge. Really coming close to running out of this. I could rebalance a little bit, and that's at least something I have to fall back on. I've tried to distribute this a little bit, but yeah, the water wound up getting really, really low. So I was fortunate to get back on it where I did. Still have not closed this back up, by the way, which I've added doors here just so it's easier to maintain this in case there's bugs. And speaking of which, the water was important because I am now on a sufficient amount of setups for oxygen that is based on water, which is all this stuff. But I added a new setup, and like I said, I was testing out a bunch of different options to see which ones would work the best. And I actually kind of like this one a lot, and that's only because the things I always want to maximize for are keeping these things operational as much as possible, using as little power as possible, and also keeping the separation naturally between the hydrogen and the oxygen, which will again help with filtration or power usage and other stuff like that. This also seems a lot less bug prone. So this type of setup, even though it takes up kind of a lot of space, this is something that I really like a lot. And the foundation of this thought was that if I have 4 of these electrolyzers in here, I know exactly how much that can produce at full speed. And I want to actually match that with how many pumps could pump this out effectively. So I have 7 pumps here, 4 electrolyzers, and only 1 for hydrogen, because that's all I really need. But yeah, this seems really stable, and I kind of like this for beginners. Obviously, there are more efficient ways to do it, but I mean, if this does the job, and it's not taking up an insane amount of space, I don't know, this seems pretty good. The other thing to think about with these setups too is like, oftentimes the amount of production that you have on these is not always going to be perfectly balanced. So you might have stuff that gets stopped up, and you might have stuff that will get overpressurized because of the fact that you're not actually breathing as much as you're producing, which is a good place to be in, which I think accounts for a lot of the slippage that can happen with builds that are built in the sandbox and meant to be super ideal. The idea that I have, at least about this game, is nothing is ever really ideal. Everything is always pretty close, but because of the nature of the game, and because of the fact that things are not always consistent, having setups that are simple like this and still perform well is exactly what I like. So this seems pretty cool. I like this a lot, and I think if I do any more builds or something about advising new players on how to set up oxygen builds, I might do something like this, just because I think this is really simple. It doesn't require very specific tiling or anything like that I've seen with some other builds, so I don't know. I like this a lot. There's obviously ways you could compact this quite a bit, but this is also accounting for the fact that this is still running pretty smoothly, even though I have some serious pipe blockages right now. And speaking of, I need to actually reroute these to send this, just blow this straight out into space, because otherwise you'd be using it for power, but I'm not allowed to, so I need to really get on top of that, because those pipes are getting really backed up. Having to funnel every single gas that I'm venting out into space through one tile is, or rather one pipe, is really bad. So I should probably do that, I guess. Should I just run it up along with the same lines? I guess so. I don't really need to filter it if I know exactly what it is, so yeah, I'll just start doing that in the meantime while we're waiting. As far as anything else, this is actually everything that I have on my notes right now, so let's just kind of play the game for a little while. Which hopefully, my aim with a lot of these videos, and a lot of the playthrough-y type of videos, is just to give you guys something to kind of second screen. And for those of you that are not super familiar with that term, myself, and I think a lot of other people, will kind of keep something on in the background just to listen to... why can't I see the pipes? This totally... Oh, I'm in the wrong category. Just to kind of chill, relax to, maybe have on while you're doing something else, like, you know, playing another game, or exercising, or going to sleep, or whatever. So if this is a good and appropriate thing for that, that'll make me really excited, because I find myself searching for a lot of that type of content sometimes, and it can be a little bit hard to find because of how much I second screen stuff, so that's kind of my aim for this. Also, some people do it while they're working. I've done that before as well, just kind of listening to podcasts or something like that while I'm working, just to help relax me, help me keep me focused, ironically enough. So I hope this kind of serves for that, and if there's any way that I can help that be better, because there's not a whole lot of content that's like specifically striving for something like that, let me know. Let me know what I can do better to make this like more relaxing or potentially more engaging. Any way that can help you guys out. But yeah, this longer form content is kind of what I'm shooting for. It's just a place to chill, place to maybe learn some stuff about the game, maybe passively take in some knowledge while you're doing something else. So yeah. Once I get this set up, by the way, this should make it so I don't need to reconnect this, and hopefully with just 2 connected, that will be enough. So let's see how much this alleviates. These duplicants are also building this horrifically fast, so this ought to be up pretty quick, even to the point where I'm almost comfortable enough to just disconnect this right now. I'm just going to do that. And with all the errors that I've had in my previous oxygen builds that I've been trying to kind of seek something more efficient, especially for a colony of this size, I've leaked a lot of hydrogen out into the base that I didn't mean to, so let me get this. Is this still not connected, or what is going on here? Yeah. I had to undo this and redo this a couple of times because I kept accidentally like locking my duplicants out from doing anything to finish hooking that up. So now that finally is, we can start venting off some of that hydrogen. Alright, we're getting close to another regolith dump here. We might as well just do it now. So I actually like to keep one storage bin nearby that is empty, so that I can just copy all the settings for the stuff that I want to empty out. And then I will recopy it with something that's already previously set. So I want to bring any Vole eggs and any regolith that I find to these boxes, so that I can just unset, reset them all, open the door, let it all fall in, and there you go. By the way, something that happens a lot with this type of setup, and why I'm deconstructing and making a big mess down here, is because when these Voles eat, they will often create like a platform to transition from this middle area to the outside area, and I don't want them to be on the outside area at all. So that can be really annoying, and I'm trying to find solutions for that, and I feel like it just may be an ongoing problem that I have. So my plan is just to move everything down a tile, just so they don't have to worry about that anymore. But yeah, it can be really annoying. So I think I'm just going to try to get all this stuff out of the way. It's not potentially as important as other stuff that's going on here, so I don't know if I'm going to try to prioritize that. But I'm also getting really impatient. Let's just start deconstructing some of the background buildings, and then we'll maybe prioritize that. I just need to get these tiles out of the way, and then add ladders so I can get in there, but this is all set to kind of a lower priority. I don't know what to do. I'll leave it alone for now. Alright, our clock is down to 31 tons of dirt, 110 of slime. I can also compost stuff with this polluted dirt, by the way, so I still do have a pretty good reserve of that if I needed it. I can also cook the algae that I have if I need it as well for dirt. But I think we're shaping up to the point where I can almost replace a good majority of this. I also do need to convert this to a balm lilian terrarium. A balm lily terrarium. That sounded like I said balm lilian terrarium, because I did, because I messed up. But I'm going to convert this to a balm lily terrarium rather than these mealwood, because I have an absurd amount of plastic from all the shearing I've been doing from the adults that grow up in here. So I have like 15 tons of plastic that I don't really have a need for. So I'm going to turn this into something that does not require dirt anymore, but that's going to take me a little while to get set up. So I need to find a good time to do that, and to find a good place to put it too. I don't really have a good idea for that. What's behind here, by the way? I already forgot. What are you? You are hydrogen vent. That would be nice, but can't use it. I do have a chlorine vent here that I can use to fill up that room, because I haven't really been, like, storing my chlorine or anything like that. So maybe I could just build around this, but this is kind of far from my base. Unless I imprison another group to only take care of these guys, but that would be kind of silly. I don't want to take this down until I have a replacement done, so maybe I'll just build it over here, because it's still pretty close to all, like, the sleeping area and stuff. Yeah, I think I'm just going to do it here. So let me start deconstructing some of this. I want the entrance to be over here, and I don't want the plants to be this far away, so I think I'm just going to deconstruct all this. Whoops, wrong setting. Let's just do that. Let's just do the quick and dirty option. And then I think I will have the entrance for my suits here. We're going to go up the side to get to all the different terrariums. If you're watching my DLC runs, which should have come out just right before this, you're probably like, oh, this looks familiar. And yeah, because I'm trying to optimize for the exact same things, which is basically just free/cheap food with no maintenance. And aside from keeping the Drecos groomed, you don't need to run any materials in there or anything like that. Don't need to worry about shearing while you're in there because they all get sheared at a central point, and shearing is really not a concern of mine anymore because of how much stuff that I have right now. So yeah, I'm not super worried about that. There was one time when I was talking about shearing. I can't remember the context, and I can't remember where this conversation happened, but I said something along the lines of like, yeah, I'm not super worried about shearing. I have something like 250 reed fibers, so I'm pretty good on that. And they were very flabbergasted by that answer of saying something like, well, how are you ever going to make like insulation in the late game? And I was like, what? Why would I want insulation? Like, that's so far in the future, and I'm not interested in running colonies like that, so I didn't really see the purpose of that. Yeah, that was one time where somebody talked about reed fibers and was very taken aback at the idea of me thinking that 200 or so reed fibers was enough to last the rest of the game, but I mean, I still stand by that. Seems fine to me. But yeah, some interesting conversations I've had about this game in the past. Wish I knew where that happened. Might have been on, like, Reddit or something like that. Yeah, everyone plays this game very differently, and everyone's going to have a lot of strong opinions about different things, which is totally fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think the only part that it kind of annoys me just a little bit is when somebody says that, like, the way that they're doing something is just better when you're not optimizing for the same outcome as they are, which is why I try to keep that clear in a lot of the stuff that I talk about. Like, I'm trying to optimize for X and Y outcome. And if you're trying to optimize for something different than me, then of course our builds will be different. Like, that seems like the nature of this game. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, in this case, for the Drecos, I almost always optimize just for having a lot of very cheap, free food. Because that's all I really want from it. Or maybe like eggshells if I wanted to make a lot of steel. And I don't want to optimize for a complex terrarium that has hydrogen in it where they can regrow their scales, because I just kind of head it all off at the pass that I'm going to be using anyway for barbecue. So, I don't know. Seems fine to me. I think even if I were to think through of how to do a hydrogen type of setup here, I'd have to first flood this with chlorine, and then cut off the supply, and then flood each individual chamber with hydrogen, and then restrict any gas flow between any of these, which, I mean, it could totally work. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I don't know. I don't know why I'm so averse to that. I think I just don't like the potential for having to maintain this. I guess the chlorine wouldn't necessarily go anywhere, and I guess the hydrogen wouldn't necessarily go anywhere. But I guess the other part of this is that they don't really produce that much if you're shearing the same ones over and over. And I'm going to be shearing so much from a central point anyway that doesn't require them to get into a suit. I don't know. Seems like splitting hairs between the two of them, and ultimately you don't need, like, an absurd amount of reed fibers, or especially in this run, plastic. I could see if you were trying to get a lot of plastic really cheaply, you might as well maximize every avenue that you have, but I just don't have that kind of need. And on other runs, I'm also okay with producing plastic from oil. I don't think that that's super crazy. It's also a lot easier because those machines are automated. And oil is not exactly a rare resource, so I don't know. Let me know what you think about this discussion. Everybody's opinion is always valid. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to say one way is better than the other if you're trying to do one thing differently versus another. Maybe I'm just being stubborn. I think if I'm being stubborn, it's also okay to call that out too. No problem with that. Alright. Getting our terrarium set up here. Got a few more minutes. Let's check up here and make sure there's nothing crazy happening in our shovels. No manual digging needs to happen necessarily. Probably still afford to haul some of this stuff. Have I gotten impatient enough to force a lot of this deconstruction? Nah. I'll get it fixed by next time so that there's not any shovels jumping from side to side. I'm also interested to see how many of these are being fed now that I'm kind of harvesting this regolith a little bit harder. I think we're doing pretty good, actually. These calorie counts are really nice. I'm not seeing many of them that are starving. And not getting any complaints about it either. Seldomer is ugly. I forgot about that. Oh, speaking of which, I was going to increase my population for batteries as well. So I think I'm going to do that too. Because I was getting a little bit of brownouts earlier. And this may have been because Oh, I need to really mention this, by the way. Should have mentioned this earlier, but I think the idea of ever having these bunker doors unpowered is just not sustainable. It's just such a bad idea. They open so incredibly slowly when they are not powered, and I must have just forgotten how slow that actually was. Because when I decided to not power these, just in the sake of trying to save on power, I would just take damage on these tiles constantly, and take damage on my ladders constantly. I just think it's not possible to not power these things. So, because of that, I'm starting to get a lot of brownouts whenever those doors need to open or close. And I've also added a lot of power requirements for the space scanners, because I usually put like a whole bunch of them up. You can do this a little bit more efficiently, but I usually put a whole bunch of them up because I don't usually take up a ton of space. And because if I have enough redundancy and they're all blocked because they're going to be buried on under this junk for a while, that usually does the job. You'll occasionally take some damage, but it's like to the point that I don't think it's that big of a deal. So yeah, these things are taking up a lot of power too. I think each one of them is like 120 watts, which that number just makes me laugh because of how many people are so bothered by the fridge usage. I think it's just become a meme on my channel by now that I like to bother people by telling them to build refrigerators. But you know what? Build refrigerators, guys. They're good. They really don't take that much power. And I'm trying... Maybe that's why I was inspired to do this. Maybe I have some, like, deep-seated need to prove that you don't need crazy power setups because I'm just literally doing it with duplicants and nothing else. But, I don't know. Maybe this is some, like, deep-seated, like anger about about producing power or something like that, and be like, oh yeah, well, I'm just gonna produce it all from duplicants. Take that. And I'm sure nobody cares but me. And that's fine. I need to eventually go back and rebuild... Oh, man. I do need to eventually go back and rebuild these to be on a better setup, because this setup is kind of just worse, at least in my opinion, than something like this. These things are getting so blocked up, though. Have I started to vent this well? Is this being vented? What's happening? No. Alright, we need to hurry up and do this because we are getting some serious backups. And it's really hurting our oxygen production right now, so... No messing around, you lazy duplicants. Alright, now that the shower is over, I don't know how often I'm going to go out here and dig all this stuff up. And also, it looks like it's cutting holes into stuff, which makes sense, because some of these impacts are a little bit stronger than others, so... Oh, I don't want to have to do this, but I might need to build tiles out here, like bunker tiles. Okay, fine. Don't want to do this. I guess if you're making me... Oh, and if I find any of these guys out here, I gotta start killing them too. There's a lot of them. Man, where are they coming from? I don't get these rooms. They're so weird. From the standpoint of, like, they make it look like there's complicated automation in there, but you look at it and it, like, doesn't do anything. Like, it takes 3 duplicants to stand in exact spots to, like, open a door. It's like, cool, I'll just deconstruct the wall. How about that? There's a lot of steel just to use for a minor inconvenience, but you know what? Oh well. We're being silly this run. By the way, this speed is pretty good. I felt like... I mean, obviously you're going to be faster with more duplicants, but I felt like the added tax of them was really going to slow me down, so I feel like we're going pretty fast. Maybe it's just felt fast because of how chaotic it's been. Alright, this room's coming up pretty good. Gonna start sectioning off these walls here. Start building some suits in a bit. Oh, that's going to be one thing that's kind of bad on power. Good thing I just made all those extra areas. Let's confine some more batteries. I should also keep digging up to get rid of some of this hydrogen too, but it'll eventually filter its way out. There we go. I actually have more batteries in here than I thought. Let's just make sure that we have all of them in here now that we don't really need them to be running around that much. Alright, who's a battery that's not here? Anderson, Avery. You guys need to get over here. Big Dumpling. That's a pretty good name. I may also be kind of lazy about this, in the sense of I'll just tell them that they can't leave and just wait for them to go in there, rather than forcing them to, because they will eventually. Alright, this is probably enough. The question is, do I have enough seats? And I think I do. Yes, these are just seats. They're not mess tables. They're just places for people to sit down. They're tired and they've had a long day. Alright, speaking of tired and have a long day, that's pretty much the end of this video. We're hitting about time. So I think I'm going to call it good. Hopefully by the next video I will have a space colony, which sounds so cool. I'll have a space colony up. We'll be shipping them food. We'll be giving them oxygen. They'll have bathrooms. They'll have a mess hall. They'll have bedrooms. They'll have all kinds of fancy stuff. And they'll just be living out here and chilling so that they can work for me up here for tasks that are very vital to the colony. By the way, let's go ahead and empty this again now that it's on my mind. There we go. Copy. Done. And empty. But yeah, hopefully by next time I'll get the bugs fixed here. We'll have a space colony up. I don't know when rockets are going to come out. I want to make sure my food and oxygen is stabilized first, and more specifically my water supply. As we've been playing, we have lost water again, so I might have to rebalance that or find new sources, because there still is some stuff I haven't found yet. So that'll all be coming in the next video. I think my videos after this, I'm going to do one more DLC run video, and then I'm going to go back to tutorials for at least a few days, just because there have been some that have been requested, and I want to get on those so people are not feeling stuck. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you back here really soon with some more content, more videos, more fun, more learning, more lulz. So have a good one, and I'll see you soon.